Well, Hamid Reza Azizi is a visiting fellow at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs. He joins us from Berlin. And Chris Doyle is a commentator on Middle East affairs and also the director of the Council for Arab-British Understanding, and he joins us from London. First of all, to you, Chris, I want to just get your take as to what's happening now. Where are we in this conflict? I know it's very difficult to know, given that we don't have any off-ramps, visible off-ramps, and actually, crucially, no destination, it would seem.
I think this conflict has settled into a war of attrition where no party really knows how to get out of it. Some are more keen to get out of it than others. And we see a President of the United States who, if anything, is looking rather desperate. When he gave the go order, he was no doubt expecting this to all be over in a couple of days, bar the shouting, that he would be able to compel Iran to surrender, total surrender. That was the words that he used. But this is not happening. And instead, Iran is demonstrating that it can basically impose considerable economic consequences on the global economy, which affects every other country. And now, Donald Trump, after having spent over a year belittling, ignoring allies, bullying them, not working with them, not sharing information, not involving them in the decision-making, is now demanding, that's the word he uses, that they, NATO allies and others, join in to open up the Straits of Hormuz. I'm not sure that they're willing to be bullied again. They've seen too much of this. And I think that they will insist on certain terms for their assistance. And it shows, really, that the United States, of course, is a major, major military, political and economic power. But that strength is built upon those partnerships, these allies. And if you treat them like this, then you are diminishing your own power.
Hamid Reza, what's your take in framing this as well, with a regime which perhaps and arguably Donald Trump thought would actually collapse as soon as you kicked the door in, if you were, and it stood up?
Well, I think it shows very well how miscalculated the whole campaign was. I mean, the assumptions behind this campaign, because it appears that the U.S. administration thought that, after a decapitation attack and also a shock and awe operation that targets basically top commanders and also some of the major military infrastructure of the country in the day 1 or 2, the Islamic Republic would surrender. But why I'm saying it's a miscalculation, because it really ignores the way that the Islamic Republic was built and operated over the years. This is a very decentralized system, especially when it comes to the military command, and this is by design. And this was actually a product of the 8 years of war with Iraq, and then the U.S. campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan, which kind of raised the threat perception among the Iranians. They went to they opted for a system that would be operationalized even if the chief of command, the chain of command is disrupted. And after the 12-day war last year, they went for even further decentralization, to the extent that, as far as I can understand from the debates inside the country, provincial commanders, local commanders had, instructions when and how to act. And this is actually what we are seeing, a system that is still resilient, and more pressure doesn't seem to be effective at this moment.
Hamid Reza, would you say that this is actually unifying Iran and Iranians?
It's very difficult to say, because, we shouldn't forget that just over 2 months ago, there was a massive unrest in the country, and thousands of people were killed by the government. So this trauma is still there with the people. But, the more Donald Trump goes toward the direction of targeting civilian infrastructure, and we know that already in day 1, there was a kind of a massacre of the girls in a school. Girls, more than 150 girls were killed. So now many people are asking, Trump said that he was going to come to help us, and now we are basically between a rock and a hard place. A regime that is suppressive, but a foreign country, an external power that is also killing us. So this is a very desperate situation. But if, and this is what I can say with 100% certainty, if plans like the occupation of the Khark Island or any territory is going to be materialized by the Trump administration, it will lead to a rally around the flag, and that would be a new phase actually in the war, I would say.
Chris, I mean, this is it, isn't it? Even if you see a regime collapse, the beliefs of the regime do exist, and even amongst a lot of Iranians, and you could have a Syria situation, but perhaps even 10 times worse than that, because ultimately you can bomb a country, but you can't bomb an ideology.
Well, you can't bomb an ideology, and I think it will also cement a very anti-American, anti-Israeli perception. Now, whether it's going to be particularly following the population or the ideology of the Islamic Revolution is another matter. But given that the United States, Israel and others want to see a change of government in Iran, you are not going to get one. There's going to be embracing Washington. I think that is now less and less likely. There's going to be a bitterness and anger at what has been done to Iran. There will be an element of rallying around the flag. That always happens. And it's not as if we don't have examples from even recent history of where this has happened. It's not just Syria, but think of Iraq, think of Afghanistan, think of Libya, that you cannot bomb a country and imagine at the end of it that it's all going to be roses and everybody is going to thank you for it. That is not the way it works. And I think in this particular case, the complete lack of any strategy, lack of a strategy also to reach out to ordinary Iranians to say that actually we are on your side. How is the American administration, the Israeli administration, let's not forget that they're a participant in this war, doing that? How are they trying to work with ordinary Iranians to mitigate against the impact of this war? There is nothing that we have heard that speaks to that, and I think it's just another element of how appallingly conducted this war, how the strategically inept it has all been.
Chris Boyle, thank you so much for joining us there, and also Hamid Reza Azizi joining us there from Berlin and London, respectively.